Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our annual spring cleaning webinar on database cleanup. I'm here today with AJ and Chuck, and AJ is going to provide you with some useful resources to get your database cleaned up so it can operate more efficiently for you. If you have questions along the way, type them into the chat box so we can respond or get those questions to AJ to answer for the group. Remember that we are recording the session, so the audio and PowerPoint slides will be available in our archives for you to refer to later or to share with a team member that couldn't be here today. So without further delay, I'm going to turn things over to AJ.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the show that never ends. This is our March Madness edition of the ACEware system webinars on data cleanup. And unlike the NCAA version, our bracket's going to be filled up with just tools. Now, depending on your view of the NCAA, their bracket may be just tools also, but we'll see how that plays out. Anyway, this webinar particularly is good for not only administrators, but your second in commands, because keeping that database clean makes everything a whole lot easier on your staff and also ensures that student manager runs as efficiently as possible. What we're going to be looking at here today is combining records, getting rid of duplicate records, missing links that you may have that aren't in place from some upgrades, also blanks and orphans, duplicates in terms of interest codes, your code records in general. And then, of course, on the course screen, you have your titles, your fees, locations, wait lists, room use, firm links. All of those items we'll also take a look at in terms of keeping them cleaned up. Also, the address cleanup and removing your deleted records. Now, one thing when we're talking about duplicate records and combining records, keep in mind that in Student Manager, what is considered a duplicate is based, of course, on the ID. So you might have 4 people that are named Carol Anderson. They all have different ID numbers. Student Manager doesn't see that as a duplicate, right? And that's where you get into your combining of name records. Occasionally, you'll have somebody that'll put in a record. Somebody who hadn't been around for a while comes back. They've changed their name from John to Bill or from Robert to Rob or what have you, and you end up with multiple records that are really for the same person. If those ID numbers are different, you can simply combine these records. Same thing with firms, locations, and faculty. Well, in combining your records, let's look at name records first. One thing about name records, when you look in Student Manager at a name record and you see that ID, it's going to have dashes in it. Well, that is a mask, and it's set in your organizational defaults. Right down here where it says site code, right above it, Social Security ID format, USA, Canada, or open text. You need this to be set to open text. Now, the reason for this is those hyphens that are part of the mask, if you just copy and they're still there, well, when you go ahead and plug in that new number to that record, it's going to catch the hyphens, and you'll end up without what you're looking for. And you'll say, well, I copied 00-123-4567, pasted it in, but it copied in something totally different. Well, again, that's because you're copying also those dashes. So bear that in mind when you're getting ready to do some combining. The routine is very straightforward. Figure out which record's the good record, one you want to keep. Go to that bad record. That's the one you don't get rid of. Open up the good one, copy that ID, go over to your bad one, and paste it into the field. You'll get the pop-up saying, hey, you're changing this. Are you sure you want to do it? Again, if you don't use that open text option, though, you end up with something like this, which isn't going to work. Once you go ahead and do this, you'll get the next pop-up, and it'll tell you, hey, wait a minute, this record belongs to other records, this ID, right, this SSN. Well, you got 3 options here. You can re-enter, which rarely would be what you would be doing, Or you could say, okay, wait a minute, I want to keep these records, but I just want to edit one of them, or I want to combine. 99 times out of 100, you're going to be combining. You'll be asked again to confirm this. We always try and build in safeguards so that you're going to have to actively say, yes, I want to do something before manager goes ahead and just kind of does it. So you press continue. The good and bad records will be looked at. If there's any data on the quote bad record that doesn't already exist on the good one, it'll be copied over. Any registrations, moved over, all that information. And then the bad record gets marked for deletion. Now, duplicate registrations, however, as I mentioned a moment ago, what Student Manager looks at is that SSN ID number. A duplicate registration can occur, however, even if we're not talking about a true duplicate name record, right? So again, I have Robert Smith and I have Rob Smith. And Robert Smith and Rob Smith are the same person, but they both got registered in the same class. You cannot use the combined name routine to do this. So like we're telling you here, if you're in that same class, you need to go back and delete the duplicate registration, payments, pack, try it again. So keep that in mind. Those two different scenarios there. You're still combining names. One case, registrations that exist on one record don't exist on the other. In the other example, you have the same class registered on both records. You now need to handle a duplicate registration. All right. Other records that you can combine: faculty, your firm, your location. Same routine. Good record, the one you're going to keep. Bad record, the one you're going to delete. Open up the good one, copy the unique ID, and put it in the correct one. Now, one thing to really remember on this. In Student Manager, firm, location, and faculty records, unlike name records, have more than one ID. So let's, excuse me, let's take a look over here in Manager. If we go and look at a firm record, like the name record, you've just got one ID. Simple. Copy, paste. But when we go on to other records, for example, go back in here, we grab another person, and let's say we want to now look at a room use record. Well, on a room use record, it's a little bit different. We go to Module Locations, Find Location. We'll use ACEware Headquarters. In room use records, you have a location room ID number here, but you also have a room record internal ID. And you notice it's in blue. As I'm sure you know, black is local, blue is global. This room record internal ID is the actual internal identification that Student Manager uses to track this record. So if you were going to combine a location, regardless of what might be in the location room ID field, excuse me, you're going to want to take this number, the room record internal ID. Same type of thing when you get to your faculty. Faculty records have more than one ID on them. Again, if we come up here and we go to faculty, and we'll go grab us one of them. So find instructor, we'll pull up Chuck. Same scenario here. You have an ID number here, and then you have the Social Security FEIN for a faculty record. Well, if you're combining faculty records, you want the faculty system ID number, right? So you're going to be pulling right here. Bear that in mind when you're doing these combined routines. Same procedure. You're going to open the bad record, paste the ID into the appropriate field. You'll be asked to confirm it. You say continue, click yes, and they're combined. Now, here are the dialog boxes you'd see. Instructor record. It's going to tell you you've changed that instructor. Are you sure you want to do it? Yes, I do. Firm record. Same thing. Location. Same thing. Also, being aware of the fact on any of these combined routines, what we will call the bad record, the real bad record, the one we're trying to get rid of, it will be marked for deletion. Now, you also can combine multiple name records. If you have a scenario where you just have one or two, fine, go in, copy, paste, etc., etc. But maybe you want to say, wait a minute, I'm looking for duplicates, and I want to get a whole group. I want to get a list. It's not just that I know I have Rob Johnson and Robert Johnson. I've got too many of these things. Well, we have the cleanup routine that will combine names using, using our tool. Take a look at that real quick. Go over here to Tools, Data Cleanup. Here are all of our options. So we're going to look at combining names. You've got 4 options here. Portion of the first name, email address, or user-defined search. Also, skip names marked as ignore in mass combine. So take a look here. If you skip the names marked as ignore, the tool will ignore those. They won't be reported. You don't have to worry about accidentally getting the wrong one. So we'll go ahead and say this. We're going to say preview. On any of these routines, you're going to be asked, have you made a backup? Very important. Unless you've just done a backup that day or the evening before, it's always very, very good to do that backup before you do any of these procedures. So we're going to go ahead and say yes. And then it's going to ask us, how many characters do you want to match on the first name? Default is 3. We're going to go with that. Okay. In this demo set, we have no duplicates under that setup. However, if we go again, oh, it's not giving me the, let's change it here. We're going to go email. We'll put in, say yes, and here we go. So we've got Lisa Avery, Farm D. They have the same email address. I leave them checked. I say done. It combined the duplicate names. If I now come in the same routine, it tells me there are no duplicates. So you've got those options available to you when you're working with the combined tool. Now, the reason you'd want to run that and have that report on that preview is, again, we're working on a demo here and there are only a handful of duplicates in there. But in the real world, you could end up with pages of duplicates or what appear to be duplicates. And that's where, no matter how powerful our tools become, how powerful the technology is, it can't replace human eyeballs looking at the report, because only your staff has the knowledge, the familiarity with your registrants to be able to know, oh, wait a minute, Rob Johnson and Robert Johnson, same address, same phone number, in fact, are 2 separate people. The system, the technology, it can't do that. So when you run that report, you want to sit down, go through it, look at those names, and then make the decision, which of these are really duplicates, which are simply so similar that they appear to be. And in that case, you would easily uncheck whatever name you felt, okay, that's not really a dupe. I don't want it combined. Then it would not get combined. Again, if you're enrolled, if those records are enrolled, those names in the same courses, you cannot combine them. You have to run the different cleanup tool to clean up duplicate registrations, which we will look at in a minute. Assuming everything's going the way it should, though, and you don't have people registered in the same classes, you will be able to just go ahead, run the system, run the routine, name records will be combined, and you're able to go on your way. Firms, very similar. However, our look in Manager is going to be a little different in our tool. Tools, data cleanup firms, refresh button, etc. You will get this. Now, take a look in Manager here. We again go to our data cleanup, firms. As it says here, if you leave the keywords empty, you will get a list of all by clicking refresh. So I'm going to click refresh here. And as you see, I've actually got ACEware, ACEware one that shows up down here. Now, this is where you would make your changes if needed. If all you want to do is combine these two, again, the last item you check is what shows down here, and this is what will be left. So we're just going to combine them. So we say replace 9 name records, 7 instructor records, no vendor records. ACEware systems, if we do a refresh, that's all we got. ACEhardware is gone. However, perhaps you needed to make a change on a record, and there's 15, 16, 100 different registrations, different payments, different records associated. Well, you don't want to go through all of those, right? So we'll take Bain Capital. Turns out this PO box was wrong. It was supposed to be 57. You make your change, you click replace, it will then tell you what records have been changed, and you now will have the correct information there. Much quicker, much easier than going record by record. Again, remember, it's the last record that you clip on. So if you're doing a combine using regular Windows control click, you could choose 15, 100, whatever number. The last one is the one that will show up down here, and that is the record that if you don't change anything at all and just click replace, that's the information that remains. And again, showing us how we do this. All right. Cleaning up other duplicate records and missing links. I'm sure some of you have noticed when you do an update to Student Manager, you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner, adding, etc., right? Adding codes, removing dead links, these type of informational notices that you're getting. Now, oftentimes you will end up with some missing links and things due to skips in the update routine. For whatever reason, you went a long period of time, the next update that you put in, there were some things that were put in earlier updates that are not there. This allows us to clean things up and also add back in anything that was, that was missing. All right, so let's go back on this. Come over and take a look in Manager. And we go to Tools. Again, Data Cleanup, Registrations, Name IDs, Cost Center Codes, Missing Course, Instructors, UDFs. And right here it tells you what it's going to do. It is going to look for duplicate registrations, names, UDFs. And again, the system, the program, what it considers a duplicate is an exact ID match. So we say yes. In the demo, we have none. If we found some, you would see them listed here. And they're not erased until you pack. All of these procedures, remember, for the Visual FoxPro people, your VFP manager, none of these things, while they're marked for deletion, are removed from your system until you pack. Now, for those of you in SQL, that's a different issue. In SQL, of course, when a record is deleted, it's deleted. Visual FoxPro, we have the luxury of marking for deletion and giving you the ability to go, oh gosh, I made a mistake. Let me go find that record and undelete it. Hopefully you don't run into that, though, too often. Another part of the cleanup routine is your interest codes. Again, dual tools, data cleanup, your name interest codes. Look at this in Manager. Again, data cleanup, names interest codes. Now what this does, it's going to get rid of blank spaces, it'll get rid of any orphans and duplicate name interest codes on that record. So we'll go ahead and say okay. One blank orphan or duplicate interest code was removed. We'll go ahead and say okay. Again, in this demo, we don't have a lot of duplicate things, but what we do have, it's going to go ahead and take care of. The other codes, however, if you notice when we looked at that, interest codes has its own separate piece. Some of these tools, the reason they seem to be broken up, if you will, in different pieces is the structure of Student Manager and the areas of the program they have to look at to do the job we want them to do. So while you have that interest code cleanup as a separate routine, you also have code areas. Now, code areas, as it shows, data cleanup code, and you get the blank box, right? This is where you're going to start from. And you then choose the code area that you're wanting to look at. And if you look here, you'll see this is departments, coordinators, accounts, all basically, well, I won't say all, but a great number of your codes. So if we said department, for example, arts and crafts. The code value is arts and crafts. The description is arts and crafts. Perhaps we wanted to change this to arts, crafts, hobbies. We simply go in here, we click replace. We have now replaced that code value. We could also replace, or a description, we could also actually replace the code if for some reason you wish to. Let's say you have a code value of business. When your description is business, for whatever reason, you decide I'd rather truncate that down to just BUS period. Replace, the code value goes ahead and changes. The other thing you can do in this code area, let's say you have a code that is active, you want to change it to not active. Bingo. It now says false. And that's available in any of the drop down that you do here, whichever code area you are working on, the same routine is the same. So again, if you wanted to change it, change the replace. Now, one thing to remember, just like when you saw when we changed some things in other areas, if you change something in the code cleanup option, it will change that on all associated records. So if you change an account code, not the description, but the code, it's going to change that code record, and it's going to apply that account code change to all your courses, all your payments that have that code, both the code value and the description. So keep that in mind when you're making these changes. You have to kind of look back, if you will, to be sure that the change you're making to this code, either value or description, isn't going to mess things up historically. So there'll be cases where you would actually want to add a new code rather than changing the existing one. And again, as I just mentioned, you can change the status, active to non-active. Now, active codes show up in that drop-down list. Inactive codes do not. The reason you do this is, again, historical. Just because you are no longer using a particular code in your day-to-day environment right now, you may have hundreds of records, if not more, that are associated with that code that you want to keep associated with that code. Well, if you delete the code, it's gone, right? However, you deactivate the code, does not affect other records. It simply takes it out of the current drop-down, lookup, pick list, whatever you want to call it. So keep that in mind, active, deactive versus deleting. Same thing as we looked at before in terms of the code area with more than one. Simply, like everything else, Control-click to select multiples. We'll change this to coordinator. I want to take comma bushies, and I want Chuck Havlicek to take over that. I click replace. Bushki's gone. All of Chuck Havlicek is there. Unlike, let's say, Nancy Kelsey, who I don't want to combine with something because it isn't that someone has taken over her items, it's rather she has left, but I want that historical data. I just make it not active. That way, I no longer have her in my drop-downs. And again, in any of these multiple Control-click environments, the last code you click is going to be the one that you're going to be keeping or the one that you're editing to make the change and then replace. Also under this, we have a thing on your locations, your course names, and your fees. And again, it's the same routine. Kind of notice a pattern here, folks. They're pretty much the same routine. Click a value to change it. You can use Control-click for multiples. And when you change the values, they're changed in all associated records. So if you change a fee description, it is going to apply to all courses and registration records that had that fee description. Keep that in mind. And it's the same routine again. Data cleanup. Locations, course names. I'll take location here to start. Let's see, I've got Kenton Hall 125, and I've got Kenton Hall 215, and the 125 room has been changed to 215. I click replace. I now have Kenton Hall 215. You notice in this cleanup tool, however, we have a couple of other things that can be done. Not only the active or inactive, but display on web. Remember, for locations, courses, fees, things of this nature, there is the ability to either have them showing up online or not. So in this case, let's say for whatever reason, I decide I did not want this location to be available online. I simply check that, refresh, and this one is no longer. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. If we go to courses, you'll notice they're active and inactive here. And again, same thing on your cleanups. If I needed to change the value, instead of this being 2017 ACE Club membership, right, I could simply make my change here. I'm just going to add an S. I want it to be memberships. I click replace. One course had its name updated. It is now ACE Club memberships, right? Same routines as in all the other areas. Additionally, if you do put in a keyword, right? So let's say I'll go annual and then click refresh. Now I'm only seeing those. If I have nothing in the keyword field and I click refresh, I get everything. We come back to courses, refresh, there are all of our courses. Fees, active, again, because of the drop down, do you want that available as a fee choice? And your descriptions. So I can have, early bird fee, let's say gold donation. We're going to take gold donation and we're going to turn them into premium donation. Now, if I could type, and hopefully that's correct. If it's not, we can change it again right through this tool. I say replace. 2 main fee descriptions have been updated. 2 registration fee descriptions have been updated. That simple. Much faster than going through everything and trying to find all the places that those fees or descriptions are being used. All right. Another area in your cleanup, waitlist and room use records. Some people, and this is kind of an internal thing on each organization, some people say, wait a minute, I want these room use records for historical purposes. There's really not a good reason to keep old room use records. Similarly with waitlist. The argument can be made, you want those wait lists to be able to look back and say, gee, we couldn't fill this class, we could have filled another class, look how many people we had on the wait list. But if you're talking about records that are many years old, there's really no good reason for that information to still be in your data set. It's simply taking up space, taking up time in terms of when you're looking for something. So again, got a great tool here to clean this up. This tool, however, is in a different location, okay? What we've been looking at thus far is all under tools. This one, however, is under module courses. Need to get out of that. Mass, change, update, delete, archive. Okay? Now, let me back up one step here for you. All right. If I want to purge the wait list, I can do this for the number of options. I can say I want to look at classes where the begin date is or end date. Or I can say course number begins with, and if you notice, this is an and or. So I'm going to say course number begins with 17. I put it in, I tab out, and I click preview. Here are all my courses that are 17s, right? Okay. Now, if I leave all of these selected, then what's going to happen, right, is the wait list for all of these classes will be cleared. So I'm going to say deselect all. And all I really want to deal with right now is I want to get rid of these because this course was February 27th, right, in the past. So I'm going to say done. And now I say okay. All right, so there were no waitlisted records on that course. Again, if we go back to course, mass change, update, delete, room use records. And as that pop-up just said, the records are marked for deletion. However, till you pack the system, they're not. All right, so I think we just wiped them all out there. I hit that button a little too quick. So room use records, 17, preview. All right, let's deselect all. And we're going to go back here to our 22717 application development course. We're going to say done. Okay, and then we're going to say okay, and nothing there. So let's go take a look at that course, right? So application development seminar. Oh, we need to go to the other courses, find course. There we go.
Hey, AJ, that might have been an online course. I don't know. I'm trying to remember.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I was going by date. Here we go, 22717. All right, we'll go look at room use. And the room use is empty because it did clear it out. Whoops, wouldn't want to get that. And we're working on a demo here, folks, so it might come up with a couple of those occasionally. But anyway, point is, if you have these records on old courses, we're talking going back a year to whatever, there's no reason to keep them. And you just saw that. Again, if you don't want to do this purge, you're simply deselect all, check the ones you want. It's very straightforward. Again, as you probably saw when we looked at the screen, you can deactivate and lock old courses. You can take care of fees, all these kind of things. And that is probably one of the real good ones in terms of this particular routine, the mass change, update, delete, archive. People, I think, understand, but I'll just reiterate it to be sure that, you know, there's a difference between locking a course and making it not active, okay? Active means people can register in the course. They can do whatever they need to do, and you can do whatever you need to do. By making a course not active, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, this course cannot be registered in. I can't go in here and take a registration because the course is no longer active. It's not going to show up online. It's just there, if you will, okay? However, it's not locked. It's not in a little room that you can't get to. It's just not available for registration. However, when you lock a course, you no longer can do anything with it. You can make no changes to it, nothing. It is in a room and you threw away the key, and the best you can do is look through the peephole and wave at it, okay? So keep that in mind. A good routine to be in on a yearly basis, let's say, is deactivating your courses. Once you get to the point where registration is over, no one can register in the course, you don't need to register anyone in the course, you're basically finished with it in terms of registrations, deactivate it. It will speed things up for you, for one thing, because when you look up courses, you're generally going to be looking up active courses only. So once you're past that semester or year, whatever criteria you're most comfortable with, you can come in here and say, I want to change the active status to inactive. Well, actually, I'm going to do this a little backwards because those already are. I'm going to change active courses that begin with 17. Here are all my 17 courses. Now, I don't want to dump all of these in, but to just show you the results, we're going to take one of these and we're going to make it active. We say done, and we say okay. Now, you remember a moment ago when I went to look up a 17 course, I clicked only active. It wasn't there because it wasn't active. Now, however, there's the 17 courses that were made active. And I can just as easily go back, courses, mass change update. I want to change active status to active. Make these inactive now. 17. I don't even need to preview this one. I say OK. All right. And we go up here. If we go find course, here are all my 17 courses, course. And if I go active courses, they're not there. It's a great tool. It allows you to do a number of things, and it's right there from the drop down. All right, broken firm links. This is my number one seed. To go back to our original March Madness meme, this would be my number one seed. For those of you that have worked with Manager over many years, you know one thing that really drives you crazy occasionally. You go to run a roster report. You just put in Bill Smith. You know he's in there. You know he's registered, by golly, and you run the roster, and he don't show up. You're literally looking at the screen going, he's in the course. Why isn't he on the roster? Well, the way Manager works with its tables in Visual Fox Pro, there are linkages between the firm table, the name table, the register table. Probably the coffee table and the end table too, but I'm not a programmer, so I'm not sure on that. Anyway, the trick used to be, Bill Jones doesn't show up on my roster, go to his name record, tab through until you tab through the firm field on the name record. You'll get a pop-up that says this firm does not exist. What do you want to do? Do you want to add it? Do you want to edit it? Et cetera, et cetera. Well, now with this dual tool for broken firms, this is going to eliminate 99% of those because it will match up firms on the name record with a firm in the firm table. If it can't find it, obviously, it'll go ahead and tell you, hey, you need to create it. But most times it's going to find it. So again, it looks for broken firm links and it gives you these options. You can report it out. You can make firm, which means you're going to create a firm name only. Creates a firm record with the name listed on the firm field on the name record. You can make a firm using the name address. That's going to create a firm record with the name listed in the firm field, and it's going to use the address that's on the name record. Or you can replace the ID with the 888. The 888 associates the name record with ACEweb's firm record. When you're looking at Manager and you're looking at the name screen, I'm just going to clear this just now, and I'm going to say save. Even though we don't see anything here, again, because of the language of the program, there actually is a record behind here. We see it as a blank. However, that is the 888 record that ACEweb uses, okay? Because if there's no firm listed, we still have to have a placeholder, okay? So these are the options that you're going to get on that. Go back one. And we're going to run that and show you exactly. Now, I had to cobble together a bogus broken firm link because our tools are pretty good now internally to not allow you to do that. We're going to go to firms. I'm going to say refresh. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Tools, data cleanup, broken firm links. Okay. And again, it tells you you should have a good backup before proceeding. And it says no broken firm links found. Okay, that's surprising because I thought I had done one. Hang on here. Use Rob here. Ah, interesting. It did. All right, hang on one moment, folks. I'm going to create this real quickly. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm actually going into the data and I am creating a broken firm link. Because if you notice here, we're on the NM firm, which is the name firm record. And we'll go back and take a quick look at Rob. Yeah, okay, so now you notice the firm on this record just says state. There is no corresponding firm record in the firm table called state. So when we run our routine, well, this worked earlier, but it ain't working now. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint to take its word for it. And again, the reason.
AJ,
go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, let me toss in. For most of you, the broken link where it actually is a wrong firm and the right ID or something, wrong ID, wrong firm. The biggest thing about this 888 or the make firm record is that if you're doing web registrations and are asking for the firm, and you would actually like to have those firm names that students type in free form connected to a firm record so you could do some firm analysis. That's probably one of the more valid uses, because as AJ just illustrated, it's kind of hard to break a bona fide firm ID. This is probably more useful for you on web registration with firm, in that you can actually tie them to firm records and then do firm level reporting. So I'd move on and keep on a plug-in, AJ. So
great, yeah, and I was going to mention that, Chuck. I mean, the majority of the time you run into a broken firm link is because ACEware does not match against there unless it's a perfect match. So if I go online and create a new account and I put in ACEware Systems as my firm, and I don't put it in exactly as the way it is in the firm table, ACEware can't match it up, and that's where this comes in the most. So, and as he said, and as you just all saw, it's pretty tough to bogus a broken firm link. So, all right, the address cleanup tool. Now, this is something that I find pretty interesting because of this part that we're going to show you in just a second, which is what the Postal Service actually says is the correct things. And a couple of them I thought were, gee, that isn't what I was taught, but I have forgotten most of those, what I was taught, so who knows. All right, so tools, data cleanup, address cleanup, right? Same kind of thing. You get the choice of saying, I just want to look at addresses based on a certain date, either the add or the update, or I can say the creator. You have two things here, add missing counties and standardize addresses. Here's what surprised me. These are the standardized address abbreviations that USPS says, which is, of course, what we follow. So, for example, if I have a name record and I have P.O. box whatever, it's going to change it to this because the Postal Service says no, P.O., not P.O. Same thing, department, drive to drive. So some of those, frankly, were kind of surprising to me. But again, great tool. Now, if you don't use counties, then obviously you don't need to worry about the county routine. However, the standardized address is a good routine to run because, again, what the Postal Service asks for and what I guess we ask for, what we think would be the thing to put in there, is not the same. So again, I'm going to come in, I'm not going to add missing counties, but I do want to check on standardized addresses. And I'm going to say the creator is Chuck. So I say run, 18 records were checked. Okay. If we go and look at somebody on your address cleanup, for example, let's go take a look here at Sam Andreessen, P.O. Box 102, right? Well, let's go ahead and do it the way I would have always thought it was supposed to have been done. I'm going to do it that way. And again, I have P period, O period, et cetera, et cetera. This record was still created by Chuck. So when I go to run my routine for cleaning this up, I'm going to, again, here I said I'm not concerned with counties. I'm going to use Chuck again. I'm going to say run. Addresses are now clean. We go back and we're going to look at Sam. And it didn't fix it. Okay. One more time. Nope. Well, Chuck, do you have any insight?
Sorry, I was muted there. I'm trying to think. That was, you had P.O. Box spelled differently and it wouldn't do that?
Yeah, exactly.
The big thing on that, I don't know what all different ways Matthew uses it. The big thing about standardized address is if you have the word road, R-O-A-D, and it abbreviates it, and like suite, S-U-I-T-E, it'll abbreviate it to S-T-E. P.O. Box, there's so many permutations, P.O. box, you know, P.O. to P.O.
Yeah, no, that's why, I was going on.
That one should have, so you're saying that one did not, unless there's a
P.O. to P.O., and it did actually yesterday when I was doing this before. On a demo.
All right, well, we'll
anyway.
check on that, but yeah, that's a general idea there, so yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's, gonna have to click through here to get back where we were real quick. Accidentally hit escape there. This is, of course, the Netflix version of the webinar where you don't have the commercials and you just speed right through. The assigning missing counties routine, for those schools that actually track counties, we'll go here to Carol Anderson. We're going to remove Ramsey County. We're going to save it. And we're going to go ahead and run our cleanup, and we're going to say standardize or assign missing counties. And we'll say run. 17 records are checked. Let's go look at Carol. Oh, that one was created by ACE. Hang on, gang. Our creator is ACE. There we go. And we'll go back here to Carol. And there we've got our county in here. Again, that if you're using counties, and mentioned before, you can do this based on add dates or update dates. Creator gives you those options. This is the list, again, of what the Postal Service says they'd like, as opposed to what maybe you type in or what somebody on the web types in. All right, deleted records, and this applies only to Visual FoxPro, okay? SQL people, as you know, in a SQL database environment, once you delete a record, it's deleted. It is gone, gone, gone. Visual FoxPro, however, when you delete a record, you are really marking it for deletion. You are not actually deleting it. One difference, because of the way Archive has been built now, for the 8.0 version of Manager, we have Archive back. When you go to run a pack and reindex, and again, it's going to say you should have a backup, and you check the select, deselect all, you will notice select, deselect, archive will also be checked. Now in this demo, there is no archive set, so you're not seeing it, but you would have up here at the top your archive files listed. And you simply can uncheck that so that you don't have to deal with the archive. Remember, when you're running a pack and reindex, the select deselect all simply reindexes. It simply says, hey, I want to do all of these, or whichever ones I've checked, and I'm going to reindex the tables to make sure everything is up to shape. Pack is what removes records you have marked for deletion. So we go ahead and say run. Yeah, okay. And again, this is a demo, and I'm guessing we've got some permission issues, but that's okay. Let's run that again. Yeah, same thing. Anyway, what you do is
what sometimes, if you've been open running manager for quite a while, and I was running into this on some databases I was working with, I would suggest on doing pack and reindex that you actually log yourself out, kick everybody else out, log in fresh, like a virgin login, and then run pack and reindex.
And then run it.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like we've been beating on it for a while, there are some vestigial hooks that get connected to those files. So so the idea would be kick everybody else, you yourself log out, then log back in and run your pack and reindex. So
yeah, good advice, and coming from the top. So all right. So that would be the thing you'd need to do. And as it shows on this PowerPoint here, select deselect archive, right? Because when you select all, you're going to get them all. And then you want to simply uncheck that, because there's no reason to pack and reindex your archive unless obviously you've just recently done an archive and for whatever reason you think there may be some records in there. Archiving, this isn't really part of data cleanup, but remember, archiving is records you are through with, okay? You run certain reports, no problem, transcripts, history, those kind of things. But the whole reason for archiving data in Student Manager is I'm not doing anything with this data. I may want to go look at it, but I'm not doing anything with it. So keep that in mind if you're doing an archiving. And again, the pack group. That help about's pretty good little place to occasionally know it's there. All right. I appreciate everybody listening in on this and spending part of your Thursday afternoon with us. And if there were any questions or anything, Sharon or Chuck, we can deal with them now.
Well, AJ, you've been very thorough. We have had one question that Tracy asked, and this was asking that if you deactivate a group of courses, will those courses disappear from reports that I'm running?
No, unless in the reporting routine that you're running, you are looking specifically at active courses. In other words, if your query is course is active. As far as, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, but
no, that's right. That's right. That has nothing to do with reporting. Nothing to do with reporting.
I didn't believe so. So that's nothing at all. Again, that deactivating courses is really simply a way of, number one, since they're no longer active, you can't register someone in them. And if you have courses that are very similar in name, or you have staff that are fairly new and maybe not so sure of things, by deactivating courses once they're no longer open for registration, it allows you to ensure no one accidentally registers a person in that course. And obviously it gets them offline.
Another reason. Go ahead and go to the next webinar slide, and I was going to ask one other clarification. We're running couple things coming up. Make sure to remember next month's webinar and, of course, the annual conference. We're still taking people for another day or two at the early rate. One question, if you jump back to manager and go to a firm record, you were hovering over which field. There were 3 different fields on that firm ID, and I wanted to verify which one that we edit. And I think That'd be firm. There we go. So yeah, it's lift that up a bit. We're seeing the bottom of your screen. Lift it up. Okay, it is the firm. Instructor. I'm sorry. AJ,
okay, I was wondering what you're at, because there is
only one on firm.
On instructor, it is that internal record. Oh wait, that's location. Hang on.
Yeah, I did the same thing. There we go.
Yeah. On the instructor, it's the faculty system ID.
Yeah, point to that one down at there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because that's a little different than almost any of our other records, where we have that that the system generates, and if you're doing the combined stuff, that's what you're kind of looking at.
Right. The only other thing I wanted to highlight, and again, if you would bring up the combined name routine, I'm going to do a show of hands. Those of you that are still hanging on, they're staying past the end of class, if you would, raise your hand if you have run this new combined names with the skip name option. Raise your hand if you've done that. That's kind of a, in the last, since this has been in like the last 3 or 4 months, 3 or 4 builds, boy, I'm not seeing anybody. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, and if you wanted to see this, Sharon, if you could give me control, I actually have some names that are duplicates in this example here. So let me get back to this, show my screen. So I have a set of names that are, they're bona fide, well, there are duplicates here. So I'm running the report, and so what you've got is when you do that name combine, you end up with issues like this: Tom Bennett, Dan Fagery, Danielle Fagery, Maria Gluth, Mark Gluth. And that idea is that if these are not duplicates, you uncheck one of the names, and then when you run the routine, it'll ask you to mark those names to skip them the next time. And see, you hadn't. Now, this is the one. This is, you mentioned the duplicates that have to be identified. Right. So there's a couple of other. Here's an example of names that are inappropriately registered for the same class. And this is what I was trying to get to. Deselected 3 names. The new option on the name record, which says mark this name to skip in the duplicate report. When you mark that, and I think Gluth, I do remember that name, G-L, like it's L-U-T-H, and I don't know which one, was it Mark or Maria? But right here, ignore this name in the mass combined. So the point is that when you have people with the same first name or the same last name address, but it's slightly different first name, and even junior, senior, John Jr., John Senior, by using this ignore the name, the next time you run duplicates, you don't have to worry about remembering about John Jr. and John Senior. So again, that is a real advantage for you in trying to keep your database cleaned up and not inappropriately combine, similarly spelled first names of customers. So, sure, AJ, you have anything else? Sharon, any other notes? Otherwise,
no, just want everybody to come down and party with us in Atlanta.
Very good.
Yep, and I'd like some of these tools made to help me with my spring cleaning, make it a little easier. Or am I just going to have to put my back to it?
Oh, yeah, would that be great? That'd be great.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. We're good.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, Sharon and Chuck, and anybody who's still hanging in this late. And thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
Enjoy your St. Patty's Day. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.